It's Achilles. Achilles is better. And that made me kinda curious why it was better. Though they don't share the same weapon type, with one being a spear and the other gauntlets, they do have the same gameplay style, being the high mobility weapons with good DPS. With Achilles having its spear dash and damage bonus, while Gilgamesh has its extra dashes in main. At a quick glance, they should be roughly equal. Gilgamesh might even look a bit better. But just looking at these stats at face value won't give you a good picture of how they actually play. So let's go into the details a bit. Starting off with Achilles, something I want to point out that's really obvious but still really nice. Achilles is a spear, meaning that you have more range compared to every other melee weapon in the game. This is a little thing that goes a long way because more range means more safety. It also gives you a little leeway in terms of positioning. As long as the enemies are in this circle, you can hit them. Now, onto the actual gimmick of this weapon, Raging Rush, aka the Spear Dash. This works a bit differently from the normal spear toss, being that you need to charge the special to get more distance. Charging it doesn't take that much time, though it's really only for distance. Damage numbers doesn't actually change and there's no power throw. If you want max mobility, just spam it. Keep in mind that this is horrendously uncontrollable at times, so slow down from time to time so you don't end up dashing into a trap or into lava or enemy attacks. Yeah, okay, this might just be a me problem. Other than the massive movement shenanigans you could do with this, the dash is also the thing that triggers the damage boost. It's a 150% damage boost at max level and it's really good. The best part about this is the fact that it affects cast too. I understand that it's not the only weapon that can do this, but the next best weapon is Eris on 75%. Half of what Achilles gives you. Meaning that even though this is mainly a DPS weapon, it's also secretly a cast weapon, akin to Beowulf or Hera or Poseidon. And we know how broken casts can be, so yeah. There is something you need to know though. Instead of being on a timer, the damage boost only affects 4 attacks. You can just get the damage boost back by spear dashing, though you can't actually reset the damage boost. I can't exactly explain it in words very well, so I'll use visuals to help. The damage boost essentially has 4 charges, and uses 1 charge per attack. The left one's going to dash in between attacks, while the right just attacks 4 times. Though the one on the left should have the damage boost 100% of the time, it doesn't. Even while dashing in between attacks, it can still only boost 4 attacks. This means that if you want to have the damage boost active at all times, you either have to do something like this, or just count your attacks. Counting is definitely not my strong suit, so the fun and reckless way it is. I think that's about it for Achilles, so now it's time for Gilgamesh. And Gilgamesh is on the complete opposite spectrum compared to Achilles. At least weapon type wise, with the gauntlets being just charge in and DPS everything to death. It's not very safe, especially since gauntlets melee range is, well, this. But hey, at least you have a lot of DPS in your hands. With the rapid fire punches you do, the gauntlets can end up at the higher end in terms of DPS. Gilgamesh does do things a bit differently though. Compared to other gauntlets, Gilgamesh is kinda slow. It's not actually that bad, it does do more damage a hit, so it kinda evens out, plus putting crits on normal attack is pretty good. Not to mention that Gilgamesh has a whole lot of passives to help. First and probably most important one, the extra dashes. Using Gilgamesh automatically gives you 2 extra dashes. It's great, but there's a bit of a caveat. Gilgamesh's dashes are slightly different to normal. They recharge a bit slower, they cover a bit less distance, and I think that means they have fewer iframes than normal. These might not sound that major, but when 99% of the weapons have the same dodge, it screws with your muscle memory a lot. For the gimmick of this weapon, it's called Maim, and it's pretty good. Whenever you hit a dash upper, you put a claw mark on an enemy. When this mark is active, it gives you a 25% damage bonus on said marked target. After a set amount of time, the scratch mark will disappear and deal 400 damage. It does a lot of damage, but of course, because this is Gilgamesh, it has a caveat. While you do more damage to the marked target, they also do more damage to you. by about 50%, which is a lot, so you better get used to different dodge or you're going to get hit hard. This is one of those things where skill is really nice to have. If you're really good at the game and you're used to playing Gilgamesh, then this is a non-issue for you. Maim becomes hilariously powerful. On the other hand, if you get hit by things every few seconds, maybe you should stay away from Maim till you get used to Gilgamesh. Comparing Achilles and Gilgamesh now, after a bit more info, I feel like people would lean more towards liking Achilles more. Though Gilgamesh can do more DPS with the mark and multiple dashes, Achilles is just easier to use while still doing just as good. It's much safer, has more mobility, and has a secret weapon of cast. But the deal breaker for me is in the dash attacks. So you see Achilles' dash attacks, here's what it looks like normally, and here's how it looks like when it's hitting something. Nothing special, right? Now here's Gilgamesh's. Yeah, it is noticeably slower, and I don't know why. I don't know if this is intended, I don't know if this is just me being dumb and doing something wrong, I don't even know if this is a problem anyone else has. All I know is that it's happening and I want it to stop. When your game plan is zipping and zapping around, dash striking everything, the last thing you want is to be slowed down. It kills all momentum and feels horrible. I'm guessing it's because of the shorter dash and slower swing speed, but I can't be 100% sure since this could all just be in my head. Oh, and speaking of slower swing speeds, the dash upper you need to do to apply Maim also recovers slower compared to other gauntlets, leaving you a bit more open to attacks. It's not as big of a problem as the staggering, but the opportunity to mention it just came up, so yeah. Anyways, that's why Achilles is better than Gilgamesh. Granted, even with the downsides, Gilgamesh is still super fun to play with, and it can still do really well in a run. Just the learning curve for this weapon is just not great. There is a few things I want to add to this, mostly in the gods and hammers that you can use. For Achilles, Dionysus is surprisingly good. And no, this isn't just because Dionysus is my favorite god, it's because he has the most damaging cast in the game. Remember, casts also get affected by Achilles' damage boost. You get a 250 damage shot from a common Dionysus boon without palms. Add to that the duo boons from Demeter and Zeus and you get stupid damage. For the hammers, go with Vicious Skewer, Breaching Skewer, or Flurry Jab. Try to go for Flurry Jab especially since it can lead to a lot of DPS with Zeus. For Gilgamesh, putting Ares on dash is surprisingly powerful. It's hard to use, but if you can stack the blades consistently, it can do a lot of damage. Though I do still prefer Athena's dash because safety is important with this weapon. Something that's equally important is getting Rending Claws, aka the Gilgamesh exclusive hammer. It not only gives you 25% extra damage to marked targets, making it a 50% damage boost, it also slows marked targets down by 30%. Being able to slow enemies is nice for this weapon since slower enemies means bigger openings for damage. You could also add Demeter for more slow, but at that point it's just painful to see. Oh, and let's not forget that this weapon works extremely well with Merciful N. It's not practical, just because of how hard it is to get, but it works. And it works well.